and France ousts Prime Minister Bayrou, plunging the country into a new political crisis. That and more coming up on AWANI International. Nepal's Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli has resigned after days of violent protests that shook the capital of Kathmandu. In his resignation letter to Nepal's president, Oli said he was stepping down with immediate effect, citing escalating unrest in the country. He said his decision was intended to pave the way for a political solution and to support a resolution in line with Nepal's constitution. Oli's resignation comes a day after 19 people died and hundreds others injured in clashes sparked by a government ban on social media, which was lifted after unrest spiraled out of control. Described as the worst in decades, the demonstrations are taking place in a nation long burdened by political instability and economic hardship since the monarchy was abolished in 2008. Despite an indefinite curfew, anger continues to grow, with protesters hurling stones at riot police and torching politicians' homes, as well as the parliament building. Organisers say the movement, led largely by young Nepalese, reflects frustration over corruption and the lack of opportunities. French Prime Minister François Bayrou has been ousted after losing a parliamentary confidence vote on Monday, plunging France into a new political crisis. The Assembly voted 364 against 194 in favour, forcing Bayrou to hand in his resignation to President Emmanuel Macron, who must now appoint a fifth Prime Minister in less than 2 years. The vote collapsed Bayrou's proposed austerity budget, which sparked opposition across the left and right and led to protests demanding dissolution. Markets stayed steady despite the political shock, and financial watchdog agencies are now evaluating France's credit rating. Macron faced pushback from all sides. Left leaders called for a shift in governance, far-right officials demanded early elections, and centre-right parties urged fiscal fairness. For President Macron, the immediate crisis is governance. He must now seek a stable or consensual figure who can navigate a divided parliament and secure passage of crucial laws. Macron's office said he would make a decision in the coming days. We'll be back with more after the break. Stay tuned.
Tok Aman dah nak makbul. Abang nak keluar dari sini kan?
Kita cari bilik sewa. Ni rumah saya.
Jangan sentuh anak aku! Jangan dia pergi mana?
Ada nampak tak dua orang budak ni? Ni, saya cari dua orang budak ni.
Tak ada sini lah.
Awak mau ambil jadi anak ya? Tapi awak kena masuk Islam. Ha? Uncle Mike!
Ini pertama kali saya raya tak ada adik-adik.
Tuhan tak bagi apa yang kita nak. Dia bagi apa yang kita perlu.
Uncle Mike buat saya percaya yang ada lagi orang baik dekat dunia ni.
This just in, the Israeli military confirms that its air force has carried out an assassination attempt on the top leadership of Hamas in Doha, Qatar. Shortly before the announcement, several blasts were heard. Israel claims the unnamed Hamas leaders had led the organization's activities for years and adds that it will continue to act to defeat the group. The attack comes as Hamas's delegation was meeting to consider recent US proposals for a ceasefire in Gaza. Meanwhile, Israel is ordering residents of Gaza City to evacuate ahead of what it calls a new military offensive. The announcement follows repeated warnings from Israel vowing a mighty hurricane in Gaza unless Hamas releases remaining hostages.
Million Palestinians is now at the center of the conflict. The evacuation order has triggered panic and confusion, with many residents saying there is nowhere safe to go. Israel says it is preparing a ground maneuver, targeting what it believes are Hamas's remaining strongholds. In Doha, Qatar is pressing Hamas to respond to a US-backed ceasefire and hostage deal. Hamas says it is considering the proposals, while Israeli officials claim they have already accepted the ceasefire deal.
The Global Sumud Flotilla for Gaza says one of its main boats was struck by a drone at a port in Tunisia. The group confirms that all 6 people on board escaped unharmed.
Tunisia's Interior Ministry, however, denied a drone strike, saying the damage was caused by a fire that broke out on the vessel. According to the flotilla, the Portuguese-flagged boat, known as the Family Boat, sustained fire damage to its main deck and storage area. The group also released video footage it says shows a luminous object hitting the vessel, followed by smoke. Following the incident, demonstrators gathered outside the port waving Palestinian flags and chanting pro-Palestinian slogans. The UN Special Rapporteur Francesca Albanese said the attackers remain unidentified, but suggested Israel may be responsible, warning such confirmation would mean an attack on Tunisia's sovereignty.
Meanwhile, Britain says it has not concluded that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza, despite the mounting civilian death toll. In the letter dated September 1st, then Foreign Secretary David Lammy, now Deputy Prime Minister, told a parliamentary committee that the government has not concluded that Israel is acting with that intent.
Lammy, however, acknowledged that the civilian casualties and destructions in Gaza were utterly appalling and urged Israel to do more to prevent suffering. The letter was in response to questions of Britain's continued supply of F-35 jet parts, some of which were indirectly sent to Israel. It marked a shift in the UK stance, which has long maintained that genocide should be determined by the courts. The Gaza war has further strained ties between London and Tel Aviv, especially after Britain announced plans to recognize a Palestinian state. Israel faces widespread genocide accusations and a case at the International Court of Justice over its nearly 2-year war in Gaza, which has killed more than 64,000 Palestinians.
In other news, Thailand's Supreme Court rules that former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra must serve a 1-year prison term. The court finds his extended stay in a VIP hospital wing unlawful, concluding that he deliberately prolonged his hospitalization.
The court ruled that Thaksin did not suffer from a serious illness that required hospitalization. Judges also concluded that his medical condition could have been treated while he was serving his sentence in prison. The 76-year-old said on Facebook that he accepted the verdict, vowing to remain resilient. Just 11 days ago, his daughter, Paetongtarn Shinawatra, was dismissed as Prime Minister, becoming the 6th Shinawatra-linked leader removed by either the courts or the military. Thaksin returned from 15 years in exile in 2023. He spent only a few hours in prison before being transferred to a hospital with reported chest pains, a move many questioned. His original 8-year sentence for abuse of power was reduced to 1 year by royal pardon. He then received parole after 6 months, all of it spent in hospital.
Tariffs on Japanese goods, including cars and auto parts, will be lowered in the United States by September 16th. Japan's chief negotiator, Ryosei Akazawa, announced the decision, referring to a U.S. Federal Register notice that confirms President Donald Trump's executive order.
The trade deal struck in July reduces U.S. tariffs to 15% on Japanese exports, but Tokyo continues to press Washington for a formal guarantee as key issues remain unresolved. Akazawa said the most favored nation status for pharmaceuticals and semiconductors were excluded in the executive order, despite an earlier joint statement affirming Japan would get the lowest tariff rates on both. On the $550 billion Japan investment package to Washington as part of the deal, Akazawa clarified that U.S. authorities will decide which projects qualify. Potential candidates include Nippon Steel's takeover of U.S. Steel and major ventures planned by SoftBank.
The Federal Communications Commission, or FCC, has begun proceedings against 7 China-owned labs that certify electronics for use in the United States. The FCC says it aims to revoke their accreditation, citing national security risks.
The agency notes that around 75% of testing is carried out in laboratories based in China. Washington said many of these labs are tied to the Communist Party, state firms, or even the military, raising concerns about the integrity of devices cleared for U.S. markets. In May, the FCC finalized new rules barring Chinese labs deemed as security threats from certifying electronics like smartphones, cameras, and computers. Recognition for 4 other Chinese labs that has expired since May were also not renewed. The move follows a broader crackdown on Chinese technology. In 2022, the FCC banned approvals for new telecommunications equipment from Huawei and ZTE. In 2023, it opened investigations into 9 Chinese firms over possible attempts to evade U.S. restrictions.
Democrats in the U.S. House of Representatives have released a letter they say was written by President Donald Trump to Jeffrey Epstein more than 2 decades ago. In it, Trump allegedly refers to Epstein as a friend and wishes him many wonderful secrets, alongside a sketch of a naked silhouette.
The letter appears to bear Trump's signature, though he has denied writing it and insists the document does not exist. The letter was disclosed after Democrats obtained Epstein's so-called birthday book from 2003. It predates public allegations of Epstein's sexual abuse by 3 years. Republicans on the Oversight Committee quickly countered the allegations, releasing hundreds of pages of additional materials. These included the full birthday book, Epstein's will, and his 2007 non-prosecution agreement with Florida prosecutors. White House also rejected the claim outright, insisting the signature is not Trump's and linking the release to Trump's ongoing lawsuit against News Corp, the Wall Street Journal's parent company.
As wars and global crises drag on and traditional multilateral bodies struggle to act, Prime Minister Dr. Sri Anwar Ibrahim says it is time for the global south to take the lead. He points to platforms such as ASEAN, BRICS and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization as avenues for countries to safeguard their interests. He shares more in an upcoming exclusive interview with CGTN.
And this initiative, Global Governance Initiative, means that that's what we want. And countries, you want to have a multilateral system in place where small and big countries are treated as equals and with respect. And of course there is human element there, correct values. And I said too that not many leaders in the world would be talking about civilization, respect and feast for civilization. And shared prosperity. So we have the ASEAN initiative, we have the Chinese initiative, and we have the BRICS, and we have the SCO. These are, I think, initiatives where we say, look, we can partly mitigate and redeem some of the contentious issues affecting us, not only in terms of global politics, but also in terms of economic, to protect economic interests of these countries.
Catch the full interview this Saturday, 13 September at 4:30 p.m. on CGTN via Astro.
That report wraps up AWANI International for tonight. Stay with us as we track the rivalries, strategies and power shifts shaping the new global order. For more, head to international.astroawani.com and follow us on social media. I'm Faye Kwan. Thank you for watching and good night.